If Hamas or other Palestinians were attacking Jewish people and trying to take over their land, there would be an international uproar over land theft. But when Jewish settlers who act just like Nazis and go out and kill innocent Palestinians, being supplied with weapons and funds by the Israeli government, it's supposed to be something that's a-okay. The settlers are also backed up by the IDF, so if people try to defend themselves, they just get killed by the military instead of a settler.
Allies of Israel condemned a sharp rise in attacks on Palestinian civilians by Jews who are armed and who've settled in the West Bank, the other Palestinian territory, along with Gaza, which has been occupied by Israel. Religious Jews believe the land was given to them by God, and leaders of the settlers say they are protected.
You know who else thought they were given land by God? The Nazis.
Themselves. From the West Bank, our international editor Jeremy Bowen sent this report.
Where the Judean desert tumbles down to the River Jordan lies a tiny community of Palestinian Bedouins. It's called Arab il-Mlihat, and it looks timeless. But the shockwaves of the war in Gaza have reached here, changing lives and threatening them. The village, really just a family compound, lies a few minutes from an illegal outpost of Jewish settlers who came calling a few nights ago. Muntazar, 23-year-old son of one of 8 brothers here, videoed what happened. The settlers accused them falsely, the family said, of stealing their goats. One, wearing a police jacket, loaded his assault rifle. They thought they were...
And this is supported by the Israeli government. These people are given weapons by the Israeli government and given support to the Israeli military so that they can go out, kill people, and take their land because they think that their fictional God told these people that this land belongs to them. The same things that the Nazis said, which is why or how they helped justify their killings of innocent people and the land theft that they did.
Were about to die.
He was shooting at my uncle, so I ran down there and confronted him. We were pushing each other and screaming, head to head, and I was filming him. Then, around 20 settlers came.
And if these people were to actually take up arms and fight against the settlers, they would be considered terrorists against the Israeli government and would be treated like no different than Hamas, even though they're just people defending themselves.
Now they said they had to trust God as Israel's police and army protect the settlers. This time no one was killed. They know there'll be a next time. Before Gaza, 2 or 3 settlers with pistols might steal sheep. Now it was more than 20 with assault rifles. The settlers want to...
Why is it that the Israeli government and the Israeli citizens have a right to defend themselves against attacks, but the Palestinian people have no right whatsoever to defend themselves unless they're declared a terrorist by the Israeli government?
Force them out, and this family believes the Israeli government has given them the weapons to do it. In 3 days of traveling through the occupied West Bank, Palestinians have said consistently that since the war in Gaza, Jewish settlers are better armed and much more aggressive. At Susia, south of Hebron, soldiers checked us out. One told an Israeli colleague that he was a traitor for visiting Palestinians. They filmed us.
Wow, isn't that anti-Semitic to call a Israeli Jewish person a settler just for talking to Palestinians? Well, how can these right-wingers claim to be against anti-Semitism when they're some of the most anti-Semitic people you can find? Because right-wing Israelis hate other Jewish people if they're not a fascist Israeli as well?
But took much less interest in what had happened a few miles down the road. The village of Kirbet Zanuta had been bulldozed, activists said last night. Zanuta's 200 Palestinians left 4 weeks ago after a barrage of threats from armed Jewish settlers. The school was destroyed. Britain helped fund it. The project was called Supporting Palestinians at Risk of Forcible Transfer.
Uh, the UK government should be pretty upset that there are people destroying buildings they helped fund. Uh, isn't the UK supposed to be allies with the Israeli government?
Activists said settlers did it to make sure the Palestinians would never come back. Someone drew Jewish Stars of David. A settler leader cancelled an interview. The police said they were waiting for a complaint. In fact, Zanuta's Palestinians have petitioned Israel's Supreme Court.
Yeah, petitioning the Supreme Court of a fascist government is not going to do anything when you're trying to ask them to not murder you.
We went to the village with a former Israeli Special Forces soldier who now campaigns against the occupation.
They are demolishing Palestinian villages, beating up Palestinian farmers, stealing their olives. They are trying to open a third front, an east front, against the Palestinians. Why? The Palestinian West Bank. Why? Because they want this without any Palestinians. They want the land without Palestinians.
Palestinians see all this and the rest of the settler violence on the West Bank as confirmation of their worst fears, that there are powerful elements inside Israel, in the government as well as the settler movement, who want them out and who are using.
Yeah, Bibi Netanyahu and the President Azkag, many of the political pundits and media all talk about committing a genocide against the Palestinian people so that they can take all the land that belongs to the Palestinian people, because in their extremist, deluded ideas, they believe that God gave them all that land so that they can do anything they want to anybody that lives on that land. This is no different than how Nazis treated everybody else, because they saw themselves as God's chosen people and everything was given to them by God.
Using the enormous crisis surrounding the Gaza war as an opportunity to further their agenda. South of Hebron, Palestinian farmers are ploughing with the donkey because local Jewish settlers have threatened to steal or break their tractor if they use it. Arabs and Jews started fighting over every grain of soil in a land both sides believe should be theirs more than a century ago. Here, it still comes down to that in every.
Okay, here's a great way to decide whose land it is. If you're not living on that land, and you haven't for like 6 months or a year, well, that land isn't yours, which is quite obvious, because just because somebody else is living on a patch of land that you want doesn't mean it's yours, nor is it yours just because some fairy tale says so.
Rocky field.
And we can speak to Jeremy, who's in Jerusalem now. Jeremy, in Gaza itself, more heavy bombing by Israel. What sort of reaction has there been?
Well, I think more fear and more movement from Palestinians trying to get away from all of that. The Israelis are saying that they're warning Palestinians about what they're going to do, giving them a chance to get away. The UN is...
Okay, so the Israeli government tells them, hey, go to this location and you'll be safe. And then what do the Israeli government do? Bombs that location people were told to go to.
Is very skeptical about whether the scheme the Israelis are using is actually going to work, whether it's feasible at all. The Israelis appear to be trying to cut off the city of Khan Yunis from the rest of the Gaza Strip as the focus of the next phase of their military operation. A lot of the Hamas leaders come from there, and they're hoping they might be able to get closer to killing them if they can really go in and clean the place out. However, the Americans have said to them again in the last few days that they must not kill as many Palestinian civilians as they have even warned they might suffer a strategic defeat, even if they get a tactical victory, if that's what they do. You know, I think at the moment, depressingly, there is now this awful rhythm, daily rhythm of war, of the strikes, of the deaths, of the UN saying it's struggling to get the humanitarian aid in that people need. And what we have to conclude is that this is going to go on, I think, for